This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
US and Afghan forces have launched an offensive in the Tora Bora mountains. Officials say the ground and air assault close to the border with Pakistan is an attempt to flush out Al-Qaeda fighters. Tora Bora was the scene of a major assault in 2001 as US forces went in pursuit of Osama bin Laden. Well, our correspondent in Kabul, Dan Nolan, says the target of this offensive is different from that of the previous one in 2001.
This was the last known hideout of Osama bin Laden, but that was obviously almost 6 years ago. This is the biggest operation in the area since then. We're not sure exactly how many troops are involved, but a senior commander within the Afghan army has told us that there are large numbers of both US troops and Afghan troops involved in this. It's mostly a ground assault. There has been some airstrikes called in, around 4 or 5 sets of airstrikes called in. As for a casualty figure, we haven't got any clear confirmation on that yet, but there are some local media here in Afghanistan reporting dozens of casualties. Well, we're certainly not seeing the carpet bombing from the air that was involved in 2001. This seems to be more of a ground assault with some aerial support. The other big difference, of course, is the target of the operation. The senior commander from the Afghan army we spoke to said they are not targeting Osama bin Laden this time. More so, they're looking for a senior Taliban commander who they believe could be based in that area. In his words, this is a cleaning up operation to try and stamp out any remnants of Al-Qaeda or Taliban fighters in these mountains to prevent them from turning it into a stronghold once again.
In the Gaza Strip, a high-ranking official of the Palestinian Authority has been briefly detained by Hamas's executive force. The Attorney General was arrested earlier on Thursday, accused of stealing files on the orders of the Ramallah-based government. He's since been released. Well, we can get more now from our correspondent in Gaza City, Noor. Noor, just bring us up to date with the latest.
Yes, well, the Attorney General, Ahmed Louani, has been released in a telephone conversation with Al Jazeera. He told us that he was told that he holds press conferences that incite against the deposed government in Gaza and the Hamas movement. He was ordered to sign an affidavit promising to end the so-called incitement and not to leave the Gaza Strip. He refused to sign that paper and that promise, but he did say that the order of the executive force for his detention was illegal and that the order of the deposed government to dismiss him from his position were also illegal. His opinion was backed by a number of legal bodies in the Palestinian system, including human rights organizations like the Palestinian Center for Human Rights, which strongly condemned his arrest and considered it illegal and called on the deposed government to stop interfering in the judiciary in the Palestinian legal system.
And Noor, I understand you and your team have had problems trying to cover this story. Your cameraman was actually stopped from filming by the executive force, wasn't he?
That is correct. All cameramen, in fact, were stopped and forbidden from recording the events, from recording the charge of tens of or dozens of executive force officers into the building of the Attorney General, into his office, seizing the Attorney General and taking him to Gaza's central prison. We were not allowed to film, and the cameramen on site were literally intimidated and told that they will bear full responsibility if any pictures of the arrest make it on air. A number of civilians were also arrested because they were recording the events on their mobile phones.
Do we know why the Attorney General was stopped in this way?
Well, Hamas alleges that his appointment is illegal because it did not pass through the Legislative Council, and they cite a draft of the Palestinian Basic Law, which is the equivalent of the constitution in the Palestinian legal system, which had basically proposed that any appointment for the Attorney General has to pass through the Parliament. That draft was never endorsed. It is not the Basic Law. The Basic Law, according also to the Palestinian Center for Human Rights, the Basic Law as it stands right now does not require the approval of the Palestinian Parliament for that position, and as such, altering that law in order to fire the Attorney General, who is backed by President Abbas. President Abbas appointed Mr. Mghani. All of these measures have been considered illegal, again, by all relevant legal bodies in the Palestinian system, including the High Constitutional Court of the land. This is probably going to be seen as one more step taken between Hamas, between the deposed government here in Gaza and Ramallah, the presidency, and the caretaker government led by Prime Minister Salam Fayyad, whereby any official appointed and endorsed by the president will be pursued here in Gaza, and the opposite is probably also correct in the West Bank.
Okay, Noor, thank you very much for bringing us up to date with that story.
Turning now to the $30 billion military aid package signed this morning between American and Israeli officials in Jerusalem. Following his meeting with President Shimon Peres, IBA's Leah Zinder asked U.S. House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer for his reaction to the U.S. aid.
The military aid package has been agreed to between the administration and the government. Will now be submitted, obviously, to the Congress of the United States. But the Congress of the United States, in a bipartisan way, as all Israelis know, is extraordinarily supportive of Israel's security, safety, and sovereignty. And certainly to the extent that this aid package furthers that objective, I think it will find great support in the Congress of the United States.
Part of the package is, of course, military aid to Saudi Arabia and Gulf states. Do you approve of that aspect of the package as well?
Let me say that almost all of the leaders with whom we've talked have indicated a lack of opposition, let me put it that way, to this agreement with the Saudis. However, there have been some questions raised that I'm sure will be reviewed by the Congress with respect to the kinds of weapons that are covered by the agreement. Particularly, there will be concern raised about offensive weapons that may be used against Israel, and also the maintaining of the qualitative edge that we believe Israel needs to have with respect to neighboring states who have yet to agree that Israel has the right to exist and yet to agree to living peacefully with Israel. So there will be those concerns. But what we heard from most of the leaders in Israel, the Prime Minister, the Foreign Minister, and others, was that this agreement was one that they had reviewed and one that they could live with.
And staying with the military aid agreement signed today in Jerusalem between Israeli and American officials, we're joined now from our Tel Aviv studio by Danny Ayalon, Israel's former ambassador to Washington. Ambassador Ayalon, thank you for coming in this evening.
Thank you very much.
How significant is this military aid package compared to years past?
It is very significant. I think it's a very good day for Israel, Israel's security budget, defense budget, and of course for the relationship. It reflects, I would say, a growth of about more than 30% of the aid, and from 2.4 to 3 billion a year. I think it's very significant.
What will Israel actually spend the money on? Of course, a quarter of it we can now spend with the Israeli defense industry, where before we were tied strictly to the American military industries.
Well, it's important that, you know, this is a 10-year package, which also allows our planners to really prepare for the next decade. So this is also a, I would say, it's an element of stability and predictability, which is very important. I would assume that most of it will be spent on enlarging the forces on platforms, on technology, of course. And it's important to say that this is no longer reflects an economic aid. We have been weaned out of the economic aid, which also I would say, a sign of maturity of the Israeli markets.
Will this continue to ensure that Israel maintains its qualitative edge over other nations in the region?
Yes, absolutely, and this is the most important part. And we've heard one of Israel's best friends in Congress, the Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, which again expressed the commitment, the bipartisan commitment of Congress to the edge, to the technological edge of Israel over any combination of adversaries against it. Of course, it is very important to say, seemingly it is a technical detail, but we have to wait for the final approval of Congress for the 30 billion package, and I believe it will be approved quite easily.
Today's signing follows on the heels of the $20 billion weapons package between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia, along with several other Gulf nations. Is there any cause for concern for Israel with regard to that aid package?
Absolutely. We should be concerned because here we have a major deal with a country which doesn't recognize Israel yet. And also the proximity from the Saudi Arabian deserts to Israel is only a few minutes flight of an F-16. So of course we are concerned, and I hope that, like in the past, there will be enough restrictions in the deal which will allow us to keep our safety and security.
Although Washington has not formally listed the Iranian Revolutionary Guards as a terrorist group, indications from the U.S. Capitol suggest that this designation is forthcoming. Iran regards this as part of a propaganda campaign against it. But what are the Iranian Revolutionary Guards? Fahima Mazani explains in the following report.
Iran does not only present a nuclear dilemma, it also presents a military dilemma. These forces are the spearhead of the Iranian regime. They're called the Revolutionary Guards, which were formed after the Islamic Revolution in 1979 under the command of the late Imam Khomeini to confront the secular current that was threatening the Islamic Revolution and its principles. The Khalq al-Mujahideen deviated from the commands of the Imam, leaving him with no other option but war. That was when Khomeini ordered the formation of al-Sapah, or the Guards, which young loyalists eagerly joined by choice to be under the command of their Imam and as Mujahideen in the Revolutionary Guards. The magnitude of the Guards' power is yet unknown, and there are contradictory accounts of the number of its soldiers. The International Institute for Strategic Studies in London estimates the number as 350,000 soldiers, while the International Institute for Strategic Studies in Washington estimates the number as 120,000. The fact is that the Guards have power to both defend and attack. They possess modern technology and machines that enables them to protect their national interests. The Guards have about 1,000 ships, ground missiles capable of piercing tanks, and hundreds of different kinds of lethal weapons, which were developed over a 27-year period, not to mention the military skills of the Guards themselves.
Joining us from Tehran is our correspondent Ahmed Al-Bahrani. Ahmed, how did the public and the media respond to the prospect of the U.S. decision?
Yes, Suad, I cannot say that all of the Iranian people, but at least most of them are unconcerned with the report, which might be due to the inadequate media coverage. They attribute their disregard to the fact that there has been many other threats which keep changing and which have no effect on the ground. We have not yet heard an honest response on this matter officially either, which in my opinion is being examined by the Iranian officials in Baghdad who are discussing security. Of course, their security decisions might not hold if the situation remains as it is now.
عليها خاصة وأنها تخوض مباحثات أمنية في بغداد ربما لا نشهد استمراريتها في المستقبل إذا ما بقي الوضع هكذا.
أحمد، من ضمن الردود غير المباشرة على مشروع القرار هذا هو
Ahmed, as an indirect reaction, the Guards commander stated that the Guards possess missiles that can reach the entire region. How could the statement be explained?
نعم، يعني اللواء رحيم صفوي قائد الحرس الثوري الإيراني قال يعني عدا هذا الكلام إن قوات الحرس.
Yes, the Guard commander Yahya Rahim Safawi also said that the Guards have the capability of protecting the country and adequately rising to any event. He considered the Guards to be equipped with the most modern technologies to defend and attack, affirming that the Guards' power makes them unaffected by the repercussions of the decision by the US or otherwise, whereas the Revolutionary Guards are considered the most powerful in Iran, both in numbers and capabilities. Safawi also pointed out that aside from the original numbers of the Revolutionary Guards, there are 12 million of the Basij, the people's militia, that can use its strength against the enemy as well.
نعم أحمد، واضح.
بإمكانها أن تقلب الموازين وتستخدم قوتها ضد الأعداء كما قال حين
واضح أحمد.
Thank you, Ahmed.
The Iraqi President Jalal Talabani announced that 4 Iraqi political parties have formed an alliance that includes 2 Shiite ones, the Supreme Islamic Iraqi Council and the Dawah Party, as well as 2 Kurdish ones, the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan and the Democratic Party of Kurdistan. After signing the political pact, the Iraqi president said that the door is still open for others to join in an effort to break the deadlock which has weakened the political process.
After difficult negotiations, the Iraqi president and the prime minister finally announced that the 4 major Shiite and Kurdish political parties have formed an alliance. In fact, the Iraqi prime minister Nouri al-Maliki said that this is not an alliance. Rather, it is a political agreement aimed at breaking the deadlock which has weakened the political process.
Of
course, the deadlock, which has weakened the political process, is unacceptable to the parties that fought and struggled for the sake of creating a new Iraq based on democracy, freedom, justice, and equality. We can't let the deadlock weaken or stop the political process. This political agreement is aimed at breaking the deadlock in the political process.
The Iraqi prime minister also said that this is only the first step and that it is aimed at opening the doors for others to participate in the political process. Some political analysts believe that this new political coalition, which has the majority in the Iraqi parliament, is a preemptive measure to foil attempts to weaken or bring down the government. The Iraqi President Jalal Talabani said the Sunni Islamic Party of Iraq supports this coalition, but it cannot join it under the current circumstances.
We proposed that they work with us so that they can be the 5th major party in this agreement, but they told us that they can't under the current circumstances. They said that they would rather wait, but they congratulated us for our achievement and expressed hope that we succeed. They said that when we present solutions for achieving political reforms, they will be the first ones to support us.
Political analysts believe that this mounts to a rejection, especially considering that the Sunni Accordance Front, which includes the Islamic Party of Iraq, had withdrawn from Maliki's government after he rejected their demands. The Accordance Front had demanded that they be given a larger role in decision-making, especially on security issues, and that some Iraqi detainees be released. The Iraqi Prime Minister's government has been dealt strong blows during the past period, most important of which was the withdrawal of the Iraqi Accordance Front from his government. With the withdrawal of the largest Sunni bloc, Maliki's government was no longer able to claim that it was a unity government. The Sadr Party and the Iraqi List also withdrew from Maliki's government. Despite all these setbacks, the Iraqi president emphasized the fact that the Americans support the new alliance between the four major Shiite and Kurdish parties. This alliance may save his government amidst high level of violence, especially considering that his performance will be judged based on a security report that will be released in September 2007. The American forces will also base their new war strategy on this report.
A knowledgeable source close to the special court trying high-level figures in the previous Iraqi regime revealed to Al-Arabiya that the chief prosecutor, Jafar al-Musawi, submitted a request to the Sentence Review Board to reduce the sentence on Lieutenant General Sultan Hashim, the former Iraqi defense minister. The details with our colleague Ahmed Saleh.
The
Sentence Review Board may come out with a surprise in its decision on the Anfal trial, after the special court trying high-level figures of Saddam's regime indicated that the majority of the Sentence Review Board wants to reverse the death sentence of Lieutenant General Sultan Hashim, the former Iraqi Minister of Defense. Al-Arabiya was able to learn about some secrets behind this review board, confirming that many influential political figures want to reduce the death sentence of Lieutenant General Sultan. They believe that there are many legal gaps in the decision in the Anfal court decision.
I am being realistic. There are many people who say good things about the defendant or say that Sultan Hashim was a good official. However, we have to adhere to the law.
The Sentence Review Board, which is comprised of 9 judges, approved the execution of Ali Hassan al-Majid. It may approve the execution of Lieutenant General Hussein al-Takriti, but may reduce the sentence of Saber al-Duri from life in prison to 15 years in jail. It is expected to issue sentences in the next few days.
For us, as the Sentence Review Board, the criminal court sentences are not sacred. Anything can happen. It may be approved or it may not be approved.
According to sources closely associated with the court, there is a belief that those whose death sentences will be reduced will most likely be freed within years because they carry political influence on many political issues. The approval of the death penalty for Lieutenant General Hashim will open the door for future similar sentences. It may implicate military generals in the current Iraqi army who have been attacking Iraqi cities, including Fallujah, Najaf, Ramadi, Diyala, and a long list of others. This is not what official and military fronts want, especially amidst the current security situation. From Baghdad, Ahmed Saleh, Al-Arabiya.
In Egypt, the phenomenon of mass weddings has spread and is aimed at reducing the cost for Egyptians. Organizers of this wedding see it as an attempt to prevent the increase in the number of unmarried women that has spread in Arab and Islamic societies as a result of the increased cost of living and difficult economic conditions. Al-Alam shared in the happiness of these wedding couples.
A new phenomenon of mass weddings has begun to spread in Islamic societies. It has come out of social and economic necessity. This wedding included many couples who were chosen by one of the members of the Egyptian parliament in order to create social solidarity and lift the costs on Egyptian families. This comes after there has been a spread of unmarried women and belated marriages due to the poor economic situation.
We have many objectives, most importantly, to revive some of the values that have begun to fade, including the spirit of solidarity in society, the value of cooperation between people and consideration for others. That way, people feel social obligations toward their relatives, including helping the young people. A lot of young men have many needs. We are trying to cater to those needs.
We also try to make it easier for young women to get married. We are trying to solve the problem or take a step towards ending the problem of women remaining unmarried.
The most important thing was choosing the brides and grooms, who are orphans. The most important thing was to give them something nice and put smiles on their faces on this day.
The brides and grooms expressed their happiness about this mass wedding celebration, which has brought happiness to everyone.
I am very, very happy about this Islamic wedding.
I am very happy today. This is the happiest day of my life.
Group weddings, especially when they are Islamic marriages, are beautiful and wonderful.
The relatives also expressed their joy at this mass celebration, emphasizing that this is the best way to express social solidarity in Islamic societies.
Islamic society should have solidarity. The rich should help the poor. There should be connections, links, and empathy among people.
Although the phenomena of mass weddings plays an important role in maintaining the balance of society, it is still based on individual efforts. There is no doubt that an overwhelming happiness can be seen on everyone's faces as they participate in this social phenomena that organizers believe will solve many social problems, mainly the problem of unmarried women. From within the mass wedding, Ahmed Al-Sayufi, Al-Alam, Cairo.
Hi, I'm Jamal Dajani, producer of Mosaic, World News from the Middle East. Growing up as a Palestinian in Jerusalem, I became very aware of how powerful the media is. I learned at a young age that the information war between the Israeli and Arab broadcasters had life and death consequences, and the truth in either one is often hard to find. That's why I'm so proud to be part of Link TV. I have made more than 1,400 episodes of Mosaic and never had to censor anything because of threats from advertisers or corporate underwriters or the government. I urge you to call 1-866-485-8848 or log on to linktv.org now to keep Mosaic independent and on the air. Right now, Mosaic is in a funding crisis. We need to raise $200,000 in the next few months to keep this program on the air through the end of 2007. With your support, we can do it. I'm asking you to call Link TV now at 1-866-485-8848 or go to linktv.org and hit the support button on the home page. Every donation, big and small, matters. Even a small few dollars a month as a sustaining supporter will go a long way. You can decide on any amount and stop anytime. It's quick and easy at linktv.org. We've done our part. We've done the research, produced and aired the stories that filled the information gap in the media. Our archive holds hundreds of episodes available to educators, journalists, anyone who has ever asked themselves, what's the other side of that story? Now, you need to do your part. Call 1-866-485-8848 and help us to continue our journalistic integrity. If you don't, who will? Without your support, we'll cease to exist. Sounds extreme, but that's the reality of a non-profit network. This isn't a pledge drive. I have no gift packages for you. I'm just asking you to spend your dollars on media that matters. This is your station. We cannot do it without you. If you think that uncensored, underreported stories from the Middle East are critical right now, then you know what to do. Call Link TV now, 1-866-485-8848. Make a tax-deductible contribution before the summer is over. Keep us honest. Thank you for watching and supporting Mosaic and Link TV.
Mosaic needs your support. Help us reach our goal to raise $200,000 by the end of the year to keep Mosaic on the air. Pledge your gift today at 1-866-485-8848 or linktv.org. Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/Mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic video podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.